what I'd like to suggest is if any of you have got any thoughts, there'll be a Q&A session at the end, and we can rush a mic to you, and if you've got an anecdote or something you'd like to say or remember, contribute, that you'd be very, very welcome. But for the moment, let me introduce you to the children, ever young. Here they are, and they're in order of strict nautical or sea-going order. The master and captain of the Swallow, Simon West, aka John Walker. Susanna Hamilton, mate on the Swallow. Sophie Neville, Titty Walker. Abel Seaman on the Swallow. Sten Grendon, Roger Walker. Ship's boy. And returning at the end, David Wood's here with us again. So you're all welcome. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And from the other crew, Kit Seymour as Nancy Blackett. Thank you. So 5 out of 6, and David at the end. So great to have you all here. I think, is it the first time you've all been together on a stage?
Oh, definitely.
Ever in the history of Swallows and Amazoning?
Since the premiere.
Since the premiere, right. Well, it's fantastic to have you all here. Well, first impressions. Simon and I had a little email exchange, and I know that sometimes, time passes and you don't really remember doing these things. But what was it like? I'd like to hear from all of you. What was it like when you're sitting there seeing it? I know Sophie's seen it many times, but if you haven't seen it for quite a while, what was it like?
Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed watching, and especially with other people here as well. That made it very, very special. I enjoyed watching it. I do cringe a little bit at some of the mistakes in seamanship, and not David's dialogue, but my delivery of David's dialogue I felt was a little stilted in a number of places. So you tend to, I'm a little bit critical of my performance, but otherwise I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it looked like the sun was shining all the time, and as I remember, the sun did shine all the time. It's the Lake District that always shines all the time. I don't remember a rainy day or anything negative whatsoever.
Susanna?
It was lovely watching it. As Simon says, to be together to watching it was quite special.
I'm sure.
So thank you so much for that. It's very. I always find whenever the wind's up and you see the boats go, that always gets me. Makes me, and yeah, cringeworthy. Basically. Yeah, we had such fun, and we just were making it up as we went along. We didn't see the scripts, which you alluded to before. Well, we weren't. Claude was telling us what to do.
Yes.
So we were living it really, which was incredible. Just incredible to remember it.
Right. Your subsequent acting career presumably was a little more rigorous in terms of scripts.
Well, I'd see the script. Yeah.
Fair enough. Sophie, now, how many times have you seen this film?
Well, I haven't seen it many times on the big screen, and I think that's what's important, and that's what impacts you, that it's a landscape movie. And also, Virginia was so special. And there's a lot of things you don't notice till you see it on the big screen. And with a remastered copy, that's exciting.
Right.
But when Studio Canal remastered it the 40th anniversary 10 years ago, I was invited to Woodbridge Cinema, which was 250 people, and Kendall Cinema, which was 250 people. And that was amazing, because the audience really pick up on the humour. And we didn't notice that when we were making it. Instead, it was really amusing. It did so well. And I want, in my book, that my scrapbook, we kept scrapbooks on set, so my book's just really a scrapbook. That people must add to, because I can, add to it. But, those scenes in the dark, where they're sailing in the dark, I always think that Simon and Susanna particularly, and Sten, did so well that I think they're sailing, and yet I know it was filmed in Mrs. Batty's calm. But you really believe that they're sailing at night, and that's so special.
You've just shattered our illusions.
Yeah,
There will be more shattering, I'm sure, to come. Sten, I think my favourite shots of you are seeing you when you seem to be sometimes slightly anxiously gripping the edge of the boat. How was it?
Well, I can't remember too much of the sailing. I loved it. I don't think I was ever very scared. The time when we nearly ran into the steamer on the lake, I didn't even notice. It's probably the only one who's fine about it all. Yeah.
Do the memories come back when you see the film? When did you last see it?
I can't. When we came to Dulwich, it was
Dulwich.
Yeah, that was that was the last time I saw it on a big screen. Yeah, I've got grandkids who've watched it.
Right.
Yeah. So,
what do they think?
Well, I think he's quite intrigued that his granddad's on the stage. Yeah.
Good for him. And what about the rival crew, Kit? What was it like for you to see it again?
I don't know. I just know the sailing was absolutely amazing.
Really?
I loved Amazon, and I think if we could have done, my parents would have bought the boat.
Really?
Yeah, it was just such a nice boat to sail. And coming here today, I appreciate everyone coming, and I'm amazed that people want to come and still watch this. I haven't seen it on a big screen for 50 years since it first came out. Yeah.
Gosh. David, what's your reaction to seeing them all together here?
No, I think it's wonderful. I mean, I'm delighted that we've been able to achieve this reunion, which, I mean, it is remarkable, really, 50 years. And they're all here, and they all seem to,
Like each other.
Yeah, yeah. They're not dying to get away from each other. No, I think it is special, and I think what I found very special today was the reaction of this audience, because there was a recognition factor, because I felt that most of them had seen it before, but there was just a warmth gushing forth, which was very magical, really, and the fact that it still lives and still works all this time on, I think, is very special.
It is indeed, and it's a tribute to everybody here. Simon, I think I heard you saying that you, or maybe it was your sister, was saying that everybody lived very much like a family, and that must have been quite difficult in a way, because you didn't know it. Well, a couple of you, Sten and Sophie, knew each other because you'd both been in Cider with Rosie, directed by Claude Whatham. But how quickly did this film family, bond?
I don't remember any problems whatsoever. I think we just did it. And when you think about it, it was set in 1929 and 1973 we filmed it. That interval is less than the interval between 1973 and
now
2024. So
we were,
in personality, we were much closer to the 1929 children, and I think the world was closer. Sorry.
No, you just.
Oh, sorry.
No. When you're holding the mic, just keep it close to the mouth.
Okay, sure. I think in personality, in our childhoods, we're closer to the 1929 childhood rather than 2024.
Right.
So to going away, going to the island, sailing without life jacket, was, our childhoods were more free. I mean, I climbed that tree, but I'd climbed many, many trees before that. They did stick some extra branches in, you might have noticed, to make it easier, because I think the first real branch was about 10 foot above the ground, so there was some fake branches there to make it rather easier. But that wasn't a worry to me, and the sailing wasn't a worry, because we were fairly free in that period.
And you were already sailing, weren't you?
Already sailing, and so the idea of going away. I mean, a lot of kids. I wasn't at boarding school, but a lot of kids went to boarding school and things like that, didn't they? I think it was just more common in 1973. Our parents didn't keep track of us in the same way, did they? I mean, in later life, I travelled for a year, and I think I spoke to my parents twice
Right.
to ask for money.
What else?
No social media, no mobile telephones, so that was the world as it was at that time, wasn't it? So
absolutely.
being together and being away from parents wasn't massive.
Right, right. How many of you sailed prior to making the film? Not Susanna, you didn't? No?
No, I didn't.
You need
one,
a
of
mic.
one of the best things about it was, as I say, the sailing, and you were a really good sailor. You are a really good sailor. So it was quite. I think we were just, put in the boats, and there was a final kind of audition week when we all went to Burnham on Crouch, and we put in boats, and people took photographs in boats. And we stayed in a boat. I mean, it was heaven, to be honest with you. Like we had 10 weeks off school. We were being paid, and we were. And by the end of the film, when I have to sail with Amazon, because we went.
They stole my boat.
But notice I'm sailing.
I'm glad to see the old rivalries are still there.
I didn't. I learned to sail without even noticing.
Right.
No one said, "Are you okay sailing the boat?"
All right.
And it was like, I just knew what to do because I'd been sailing, watching Simon for the last 10 weeks. It was very gratifying. Very,
All right.
Seriously gratifying.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And,
sure.
and like Kit said, it was, what freedom. It was.
So it wasn't an obligation that you, or a requirement rather, that you had to have been sailing?
I had to learn to swim because that was it. That was my only stipulation. I had to be able to swim.
You call that swimming?
They totally forgot that.
As long as I kept afloat, it's okay.
Right, you had
He
yeah.
has to row everywhere. But like when you're making the film, you have to row with the camera on board. And Stan and I, we did a lot of rowing. They didn't ask us about that. And then the guy who was the sailing director didn't break down the script, so he thought the Amazons would be sailing the Amazon the whole time. And then suddenly, Susanna and I are sailing Amazon. And we hadn't practiced or rehearsed or anything. We just
And if
got
you notice, she goes. Very good.
And it's really blustery sailing in the lakes. Simon did particularly really well.
Apart from in that scene where Susanna does go shooting past me.
But if you look, and you see the boom.
Mic.
Sorry, the booms coming out. There are times, when we're all like, oh, yeah.
Well, I think you actually get hit at one point, don't you?
Very likely.
Yes,
yeah.
I think there's a swings back there. Yeah.
It was all. It was very exciting.
Right. Oh. And Kit, you had experience of sailing?
Yeah, my father and us 4 children, my siblings, we all learnt to sail with my dad. So I couldn't say that I was a particularly good sailor. I was always in awe of Simon. Because he was. Honest, Simon, because you knew what you were doing. I was making it up as I went along.
Kit, apart from anything else, Kit was about a head taller than me. So if we were ever in a scene together, I had to stand on a box.
I must admit, I did feel exceedingly lanky in that.
Well, Alan Ladd had to stand on a box to kiss most of his leading ladies, so don't feel bad about it. So tell me about the audition, because there must have been a point at which you all got selected. How did all that happen? Anybody want to kick off on that?
Well, I've been in a film. Claude Whatham had made a film of Side with Rosie.
Indeed.
2 years previously. And it needed 3 actors to play Laurie Lee from the age of 16 to 18. And I lived in the area where Laurie Lee grew up, so they came around the local schools looking for bit parts, and they picked me to play little Laurie Lee. At age 6, who'd never had a television in the house, I was really a little bit confused about the whole process.
Wow.
But went along with it, yeah. And Claude, for some reason, liked me, and she got me shortlisted for that weekend in Burnham on Crouch. I missed the big auditions. Straight to the last 26.
Wow.
And, yeah.
Contacts, you see. Absolutely vitally important in show
I think you
business.
were up against the producer's son, Fred.
Well done, Claude.
My experience was almost completely different to that, in that I had nothing to do with the movies or no background in that at all. But my sister, who's a little bit older and far more film starry personality than me, saw this advert. We were in the sailing club, and there was something on the board about auditions for Swallows and Amazons. We had read the books, and we did go to the Lake District, so we got some in. But she was very, very keen, and I was just dragged along as the sort of little brother, like annoying little brother. And then when we went to Long Acre to Theatre Projects office, and you went in the morning, and then there was a call back in the afternoon, and when she didn't get called back in the afternoon, and I did, that didn't go down well. That did not go down well at all. In fact, she moved to Australia.
That's taking it a bit far, isn't it, really? Yeah. So, Suzanne, what do you remember?
I remember we all slept on this big boat in Burnham on Crouch, and I don't remember very much, really. I didn't really. I thought that would probably be it. So I was fairly astounded when.
But you had some acting training experience.
I went to Anna Scher's.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was lucky because I just went to this Anna Scher's, which in the 60s at that point was in a hall off Essex Road, and it was an after-school drama club, and at that point I don't think even she barely had an agency, but we had fun. So the fun of the of not having a script and of being told, it was the same sort of vibe. It was just just make it up as you go along, sort of. But Claude would tell us what to say or what to do, but we were sort of in on the adventure of. It felt like we were in on the adventure of. Oh, now we're going to gut a fish, or now we're going to sail a boat. It was kind of like it was genuine, That was a very exciting thing for someone from Islington to be doing. I loved it. I loved it. Yeah.
Sophie?
I didn't think I was in with a chance because although I've been inside with Rosie, I was 12 and Titty's meant to be 9, and there were 4 other lovely, pretty, together little girls lined up to audition for Titty on the scout boat in Burnham on Crouch, Burnham on Sea, Burnham on Crouch, and I didn't think I was in with a chance. I really didn't, and I can remember Claude asking how I enjoyed the sailing, and I said, "Oh, we helmed like anything," and I could see him going, "Okay," but actually I was talking rubbish, and I felt completely in awe of the sailing in Essex because it was really tough and it was pouring with rain and blowing a gale, and Kit was like doing really well. And I can remember Kit's got a sister, twin sister called Alison. She was also auditioning.
And my older sister was.
Was she?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And they were all like whizzing around and doing all sorts of things. And I was like, oh.
I think the only reason I actually got the part, I saw some of the filming that they'd done when we were on at Burnham, and I was just pulling faces the whole time. I think they thought I could act. I realised now I can't really.
I think acting does come down to a lot about pulling faces, actually. So I think you were fine on that. Sten, did you want to say something? Not like, okay. Let's talk about the weather, because now I've read, obviously, Sophie's book, and she talks about how cold it was, and it was cold all the time. She says that you, Simon, don't remember it being cold at all. I doubt if Sten did, because he was obviously wearing 2 lots of clothing in several of the scenes.
I remember it being hot, especially when we had to film these scenes where it was supposed to be cold and I had 2 layers of jumpers on.
But it was undoubtedly wet, wasn't it? How did that play out in terms of scheduling and your school studies? That must have been quite complicated.
Scheduling, that was none of my business.
Yeah, it was further scheduling, but they'd have a call sheet would be given to our chaperones actually in the evening, and they have 4 different plans on it, like fine weather, which is what they wanted, wet weather, and then it says dull weather, and then weather call, which was like if it was a force 8 gale. And you've seen, there were very few interior scenes. And they sort of ended up with, well, we could go into the houseboat, but then we'll need the parrot. Apparently the parrot had to be on standby a lot. I didn't really know what to do with it. And it would arrive on set in a zip-up shopping bag. The poor driver thought it can't stay in this zip-up shopping bag all day, so he released it in the bathroom at the production office at this hotel. But the problem was he had to catch it at the end of the day, and I didn't fancy that, because it wasn't a very tame parrot. Could have taken a chunk out of our faces.
And just for clarity's sake, you didn't get the parrot at the end, did you? Not like City.
I didn't,
no.
But
Okay.
you can imagine what happened in reality. Susanna spent her fee on 2 budgerigars.
I did.
And my mother bought a green parrot, who we adored, and then she kept parrots for years and years until they were driving us absolutely bonkers.
Gosh, there's a lot of hidden sorrow in this production. Just under the surface there, I can feel it. And Kit, when you auditioned, did you only at Burnham? You didn't go to the earlier audition?
Yeah, but we went to the first auditions. There was me, my 2 sisters and my brother.
And why did you go? Why did you all go? Were you into acting, into
No, not at all.
sailing?
I was into sailing, definitely.
Right.
And but it's the same as Simon. I was at a sailing club and saw the information, and I don't know whose decision it was to go, but just remember going. And I think my brother was the wrong age, so he was dropped pretty quickly. And then my 2 sisters, as I say, got through to the final audition.
Right.
And then for some reason they picked me.
Oh dear.
No, I can't. Oh, I think I've got a twin sister, and yes, she was definitely jealous.
Right.
Because going back to school afterwards, that was quite hard work.
I didn't know this was going to turn into an open therapy session.
I don't need any therapy. I think she needs more therapy.
That's it.
But yeah, no, I would tell you what, I wasn't very confident, and that working on the film and meeting these guys and all the crew and that was just absolutely amazing. Just helped my confidence so much.
Well, 7.5.
You turned 13 during the filming, towards the end, and your mother sent up half a birthday cake.
Did she?
Yeah, because your sister Alison got the other half.
Oh, so she should.
Because it was really weird.
I think that's the right thing to do.
Well, Sophie's already mentioned that you kept scrapbooks, and well, we know that Sophie's was preserved because a lot of it's in her book, and on your website you've quoted from Sten's scrapbook. So have the rest of you still got your scrapbooks, and have you ever looked at them since?
Oh, I've still got mine.
Yeah.
And when I heard about this, I had a quick flick through.
And what did you think? What memories came back from it?
Oh, I don't know. I'd started reading some of the letters my sister had sent, and I don't know, it's very, very strange. And it's just like a completely different time. And sometimes it just doesn't feel like it was you. Because you're, such a long time ago, we've gone through a lifetime nearly. And,
of course.
Yeah. It was interesting, and I think I got more watching it just now than going through the scrapbook. It was that brought back so many memories.
So was the scrapbook an excuse for
it was schoolwork.
The education? Yeah. Did you keep yours, Simon?
I'm sure I've got it somewhere. My father's got various albums and things still in his house, which I haven't looked at for a very long time.
Right.
So I did lend them to Sophie at one point, so she's probably more au fait with what's in there than I am. But yes, we all kept scrapbooks, and I do still have it, yeah, I'm sure.
You've got it. One of mine was stolen, so it was really useful having Simon's because it was mainly press clippings that we kept. Because nowadays they don't let journalists anywhere near a movie when they're making it, especially if there's children. But we had journalists turning up every day. And the one thing that we all couldn't stand was the publicity. And I think it's because they didn't tell us that it was important. And like for a television series, there really is not much publicity, even now I don't think. I'm a bit out of date. But for a film, there's so much. And it made us feel right twits. You know, being in the Evening Standard, and we just thought, why? Why is anyone interested in us? Well, I did.
Were you not sort of given any training or preparation for it at all? Wow.
Brian Doyle, who's
Mm-hmm.
your old friend, he was the publicity manager, and he was on location all the time. So yeah, he must have been very gentle with us. But it was quite alarming afterwards, because then he wasn't there, and like Sten and I had to go and be in Points West. Remember?
I don't remember Points West. I do remember getting hauled up in front of the Saturday morning child matinee in front of the big screen in the local town a couple of times, I think.
Yeah, Gloucester.
Yeah.
Hauled up, that sounds scary.
Felt like that, that's how
Yeah.
There were some high points. I only remember high points. I don't remember anything to do with publicity apart from meeting Bobby Moore at the premiere, which seems more important in retrospect than it did at the time.
The Lord Mayor's show.
Oh God, that was cold. That was very cold.
Yeah, we were. I don't know whether Amazon was there. Was Amazon there and Swallow? But they had the boats on the back of a lorry, and we sat in the boats for.
I don't know which boat. I remember chucking sweets out to everyone.
So this was November 1973, and you were all on the boat in costume,
Freezing cold.
on a low loader being driven through the streets through the city, following on from the Lord Mayor and his entourage.
And we were just in one dinghy, which
Right.
felt very odd because we hadn't been in a dinghy with the Amazons.
Right. And that went on, of course, for the whole of the trip, because it's quite a long journey, the procession. Yeah. Right. But tell me about the premiere, because you met Bobby Moore. Was there a royal there?
Yeah, there was a princess, but
Well, it says royal on the poster, but I don't know which royal it was.
well, the good thing was that it raised a lot of money for a charity called Kids, which is still
Okay.
doing well. And there was a royal princess who was the patron.
Right.
But we
No.
haven't seen her since. The funny thing was that it was on a double bill with The Exorcist. But really, if you think of the other films that came out in 1974, they just haven't been so durable. And the extraordinary thing about this film of Swallows and Amazons, somebody told me it's been screened on British television more times than any other film, and I know why that is. It's because it's got a U certificate and they can put it out really early on Sunday mornings. So think of the consequences. Like, all the kids are downstairs watching Swallows and Amazons. Oh!
But
imagine.
you went to the premiere with a couple of nuns.
Yeah, Mum invited, not my friends, but my headmistress, Sister Anne Julian, and my house mistress, Sister Alan. And yeah, they came. And Sister Alan was sick in the taxi. And my sister said she spilt water all down her private parts. But apart from that, yeah, it was probably good that they came, because I know what my mother was doing. She was buttering them up, because I was at this convent and Mum wanted them to release me to go to further auditions to be in other films.
God, yeah, the ways of mums. I did notice, especially in this screening, just how much eating is going on in this well, I was, yes, thanks for the pointers, but yes, exactly. I mean, how many of those ice buns or custard tarts or whatever they were did you get through? And apples, you had a lot of apples. So
Okay, well, the one that I really remember is the pork pie.
oh, it's a pork pie, was it? Ah, right.
So I didn't normally get to eat pork pie, so I was given the choice, do you want to eat an apple or pork pie? Pork pie. Well, after having stuffed in, keenly on the first shot, and then you get to the second shot and the third shot, and each time you ended a fresh pork pie. I wasn't so keen on pork pies by the end.
Right.
I was wearing those double jumpers.
Right. And you had a late night eat out with Virginia, of course. No, Sophie.
Oh, cooking on the fire, didn't she do that well? It was really difficult. But there's a bit of a problem there. In the middle of that scene, And it was a scene that took 2 days to shoot, so it did happen overnight, but I lost a tooth, a long tooth. So I'm doing the second part of the scene like this, so people couldn't see. And Peter Rob King, who was the makeup designer, thought he'd have to go to the dentist and get me a bridge made. And so he kept the tooth. And I bought it, it's in my suitcase. I haven't looked. He put it in one of those aluminium film canisters and took it to the dentist. And it's in that case. But he didn't get a plate made, so Claude had to live with it. And people who love the film and watch it like 50 times, they're all looking at the screen. They say, Sophie, your tooth goes in and out and in and out. And of course, that's because we shot most of the scene of the voyage to the island after we shot the Man Friday and Robinson Crusoe scenes. So at the beginning of the film, I've got no tooth and it grows really quickly. And then it's gone again. It was this eye tooth, so it's quite prominent. So that's a bit embarrassing, especially as I was trying to be a bearded, shipwrecked sailor.
And the Holy Relic is here for anybody who wants to look at it afterwards.
I haven't opened the canister, but just, it's all those things from the 70s.
Yeah.
So it's just those aluminium film canisters. I mean, have you seen one recently?
And we should say this flag is the flag, shouldn't we?
No.
Oh, it's not.
This is it.
Ah.
Okay, Richard sent these from the States, and this was never used in Vision, but it was made for the Amazon boathouse. And then, thank you very much. This is Swallow's real flag, the real deal, with the stitches I made in Vision. And this is the flag we captured. The White Elephants Forever. Isn't that fabulous? This is just one I couldn't help buying at a junk shop. But
one you made earlier. Yeah.
Didn't occur to me for years, but these little stitches here were the stitches that I shot in that early interior scene. And then Bobby Hedges, the prop guy, took over, and I thought, oh, those stitches are really big and bad, and he didn't sew very well.
Susanna, what about the embroidery you were doing on the train?
I just remember I was so, it was the first shot of a film, and just thinking, oh God, I've got something to, hide behind, and I was I was glad it was gone after the first scene.
But I gather that because it wasn't filmed with against a blue screen or a green screen, so what was going on outside the window, what was going past was going past. So how complicated then was the filming? I mean, to get some, obviously you go into a tunnel, but
I think that I do have some memory that the timing of the tunnel was an issue. Of course, it would be.
Right, yes.
But I mean, it was the first scene, and so we were all, looking at it, we were all very, very nervous.
Yeah.
But it was very exciting because we were all about to start this adventure, and so it was sort of, I think there was a lot of stopping and starting that train. Yeah.
It was filmed on the lakeside and Halverthwaite Railway, which of course is there, and the scenery of course hasn't changed at all. You can go on that journey and it's identical, which is a wonderful thing about the scenery and the Lake District in particular, that all those backgrounds are exactly the same. Yeah. The island is untouched, and that's a fantastic thing. So
tell me about the location.
It was the first day, as Susanna said, it was the first day of filming, so going to the railway, I think. So,
had you had a time to meet each other than at the audition before? Or?
On the train on the way out.
That was getting to know one another, was it? Right.
Yeah, we did go up on the train together.
We met at Euston Station. Yeah. And that was it. We were off.
Oh, not that train. The train to get up to.
Yeah, we met in London,
yeah.
and then maybe we went up to bed and breakfast. And
I was wearing the most revolting pair of dungarees.
She was.
That's another thing about it. You bring out the costumes. That Because if you'd shown us in our normal clothes in the 1970s, they were all pretty hideous, weren't they? And my haircut, before I had my haircut, which is one of the photographs, is hideous now looking back. But the clothes I'm wearing in the film, I quite like them. And the long shorts, the sort of white, fairly plain shirts, the grey jumper that I wear, I think, well, that's quite nice. I think we'll like that. And it's gone full circle, hasn't it? And 1973, fashions were not at their peak.
Susanna, you had quite good couture, didn't you, actually?
I did, yes. Yeah, it looked fine. It was nice. Peter. No, it was... Who was Peter? Was it Peter?
It was Emma Porteous.
Oh, costume, sorry. I thought you said, no, they had... Oh, Emma, yeah. No, but they were all lovely. I mean, it was all, like Simon said, it was, it was not difficult to get nice clothes for kids.
I'm not sure the swallow sitting next to you would agree with that particularly.
Maybe not. No, he still had...
No. I mean Sophie.
Art, the costume designer, was the designer who designed about 8 Bond films.
She won Oscars, I believe, very possibly.
But this was probably the first one where she had blue gym slips under knickers underneath.
The Passion Killers! Oh, there's a funny thing about that, the navy blue elasticated gym knickers that Claude wanted on display. I wrote about them on my blog and I had to take it off because I kept getting all these hits from...
Oh dear. Let's not go there, Sophie.
Well, people looking for navy blue elasticated gym knickers.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I had to take the photographs down. Why Claude wanted to see my legs, I don't know. I mean, I was like emaciated, but I suppose it gives the young film a bit of eccentricity. The swallows were a real family called the Altuvians, and apparently they wore dresses, and they would tuck their dresses into their knickers when they went sailing. So it was a bit of authenticity. But Emma Porteous cheated on the length of my dress anyway, because she gave it that sort of outgrown look. But yeah, I would have liked kind of like a thermal vest underneath, because it could be really cold to begin with, and we just got ill. Actually, I didn't get ill. Susanna, you got really ill. We did have 2 days before the filming to get used to the boats, and we just played a lot of Consequences in the hotel with Virginia. Virginia McKenna got us together, got us concentrating by playing various acting games with us. And I just mean charades. We did that. We did Consequences.
Kit, you're looking aghast. Don't remember.
Can you remember sailing on Windermere before the filming started? We did. We had a very good-looking sailing director. He was the policeman.
He was lovely, wasn't he,
David? So he took us out of it, but he didn't break down the script, so I had no idea that Stan and I had to do all that rowing. Or that Virginia McKenna could row. No one asked her.
You're an actor, of course you can row. Yeah. Kit, you had both of the Amazons had a rather different kind of costume because you were much more boyish. You had sort of jerseys, hats, and long shorts.
Much more my style. I wouldn't have played the part of Titty.
Right.
There's no way I could wear a dress. I never do. So.
Right. Oh.
Yeah, no. The style of our shorts and hat and the t-shirts were great.
Sorry, Simon, you going to say something? No?
Kit was famous for inadvertently throwing a bucket of water over the director. Remember that?
I do remember that. It was when we were washing down the boat, when we tipped her on a side.
Keep the mic near you, Kit, otherwise we won't hear you.
When we tipped Amazon on her side, was scrubbing the bottom, and they gave me a bucket of water and I threw it against the boat, and it ricocheted all over Claude. And they wanted me to do it, the rest of the crew wanted me to do it all again, but Claude refused.
He didn't have a change of clothing on him.
You clearly had a really good all of you had a very good relationship with him. What was the secret, looking back now as an adult, that he had that enabled you to relate to him and have that kind of rapport?
I think he was just really honest with us, and he would ask us what we thought about stuff. And, you know, he wasn't, he was the director, but he wasn't directing us. He would give us choices and ask us how we would do stuff, and he was just such a lovely man.
He was. And like I said before, it's like all the actions that we were doing, you know, we were gutting the fish, we were sailing the boat. He was very much always discovering, he was enjoying us. It was part of the film, you know. It was actually part of the film, you know, I think. And for him, I think it was, he was just lovely. I seem to remember, you know, it wasn't like you say that and then you say that and then, you know, you were completely unaware of being directed, really. I mean, there was just no, he was one of us. That was basically it. I don't know how he did that.
Well, you've worked with a number of directors since.
I have.
Yeah, so what would be the difference there between...
We didn't feel patronised, I think. I mean, I don't know, because I wasn't a child actor.
No, of course not. No.
But you know, I didn't do a lot of other things as a kid. He didn't patronise us at all. So he was, as I say, it was like he was having the adventure with us and taking the risks we were taking. And we did take risks, you know. I've still got scars on my fingers through, you know, cutting up stuff, and you know, we were taking risks. I mean, the boat was pretty risky, you know.
Yeah.
And that was really exciting. And that was just what he was like, as far as I can remember.
I can remember we just took the boats out,
yeah.
And it wasn't part of filming or anything. They just let us take the boats out and just go off sailing. No one was with us. We just had a good old sail around the islands. It was just amazing. Brilliant.
He did bribe us. He gave us.
He did.
He gave us danger money. So when Sten got, I don't know if you can remember in the film, but he gets really quite scratched by Browners. He got 50p. And I've got it down. But Mum wrote down, Kit, 50p. You got 50p, and. I don't know.
It wasn't just 50p, it was 10 shillings. Yeah, it was a note. It was a note.
Yeah.
10 shillings.
Paper money. Paper money, yeah.
Money.
I do remember you guys getting money for swimming.
For swimming.
Yeah,
we got £2.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then, because Peggy and I didn't have a chance to go swimming, he gave us money as well.
That's what he was like.
But he was also a great runner. He used to run everywhere. And he would get us running before doing a scene.
Yeah.
Especially when we went to Epsom, when we did the pick-up scene in Runnymede. There's one scene we had to pick up. And also when we were above Derwent Water, he got us to run. And that distracted us from the things around us. We would just arrive breathless and we'd start shooting. But the scene when Susan guts the fish, you improvise that, and we improvise the dialogue. Yeah, sorry, David.
I can't.
You'll be like that soon.
What?
She's pulling out the guts. You know, Susanna had slow worms in her bedroom.
Well, my mum, I had slow worms. I don't know why. I was always quite interested in animals. I was so happy that we were working with Virginia McKenna because of Born Free. I mean, this was all I'm not joking, all my dreams come true. To be in a film and to have Virginia McKenna as my mother. I mean, it was incredible. And she was so delightful and so generous and so kind. And I really like animals. I quite like reptiles. You know, like, you'll see me with the adder. I'm like, oh, exciting. I was very thrilled. I wasn't allowed. I did have grass snakes. Once I'd been paid and I could afford to buy grass snakes. But earlier on I had slow... Oh, no. I got slow worms because... I mean, sorry, how long have you got? The adder in the film was sent from Arundel. I remember that you got... The adder came... You could buy reptiles by post because it was pre all these rules, right? And I got my slow ones from the same place that you buy the adder, yeah. My mother wouldn't have them, so I had to have them in the bedroom while we were filming.
And what happened after, or shouldn't I ask?
Oh, no, I had them for quite a while.
All right.
Yeah, Perry was quite looked after them for me, I think, for a while, didn't you? Your sister looked after them.
They were in an aquarium.
Oh, yeah, of course they were in an aquarium. Yeah. They were looked after. I was fascinated by them, yeah. But they're beautiful things, slow ones, actually. They're lizards, of course, they're not snakes.
Anyway, they came on location and they stayed at the guest house where we stayed.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit about health and safety, but can I just say the 3 words, bows and arrows? What was that like?
Have you seen that film, that scene with the...
Oh, those arrows that went over Simon and Susanna's head, they were actually on wire.
Right.
So it wasn't as dangerous as it
Okay.
looked.
Right. Was any of it dangerous? Well,
I don't remember, but it didn't feel dangerous at the time.
Right.
In hindsight, maybe in today's health and safety culture, it's a bit dangerous, but we were totally unaware of that, weren't we?
Yeah,
It was all
you
just fun.
enjoyed
I
it.
mean,
It was
the
fun.
arrows was fun, you know, it's like, wow,
We're all making bows
shooting
and
bows and
arrows.
arrows.
Right.
Fantastic fun. Well, who wouldn't like that as a kid? It was
What you
wonderful.
don't know is my father nearly stopped the filming because he was the tall native on the turn and really nearly did hit the Lakeland steamer called the Turn. And he wasn't very happy about that because Claude wasn't a sailor, so he didn't realise that you'd lose your wind when we got close, and Dad did. And it was really difficult.
In my defence, as the skipper, it wasn't just that we lost the wind, because I knew about that, but also the boat was going quite fast and actually sucks you towards the boat. There's an additional kind of effect which I hadn't allowed for at all. So we did get perilously close to the boat.
that was really
It would have been
genuine.
fine. It would have been
Yeah.
fine. It wasn't dangerous in that way. We would have
Right.
hit it and bounced off it.
Right.
So I knew we had to get close, but this other...
He's a really good sailor.
We got sucked into it more than I expected, which was...
Actually, swallow's quite difficult to turn.
She was a great boat.
Anyway, the news is that the Arthur Ransom Society has been given a quiet board, both Swallow and Amazon.
Right.
And we are having another reunion, but in Cumbria at Windermere Jetty Museum, the old steamboat museum, on the 29th and 30th of June this year. And they're bringing Amazon along, and they're bringing Swallow along, although she's under restoration. And they're going to have the steamboats that you saw in the Rio scene, there's the Rio cinema there, that's the Osprey and either the Lady Elizabeth or Penelope, which I noticed today. And also they've got the Windermere Jetty on permanent display, Arthur Ransom's boat, who was the model for the Scarab in the books. And they're bringing up the little boat we used in Titmouse when we worked on the BBC adaptations of Coop Club and the Big Six. Which I got to make when I was about 22, behind the camera. So that's going to be really special to be able to go out on Windermere in the dinghies again.
Now, we've touched on money already, the bribes, or the generous handouts from Claude, but you were all paid, am I correct, £7.50 a day for your work?
I remember it as 10, but...
All right, okay. Well, maybe you had more. We better not. I've said whatever it was, the parrot earned more than any of you did. That's apparently a fact. So what did you do with your money? Now, we know that you...
I bought an oboe, actually. Sorry.
You bought an oboe,
Yeah.
right? And... Sten, you bought some Lego, was it?
Well, I'm famously quoted in the Times as saying, I'm going to buy the biggest Lego set you can buy.
Did you?
I doubt. I expect I bought some Lego, almost definitely, yeah.
Right, yeah.
I had to share some of the money with a sister who had to stay at home whilst I was having all the excitement.
God, that seems very unfair, but well, anyway, okay. But you got some Lego out of it.
Yeah.
Right. What did you do, Kit?
I bought myself and my sister a badminton racket.
Right. Okay. And Simon, you bought...
I think in the end I did buy a dinghy, yeah.
Yes, I think you did.
Dinghy. Well, my father made one to to start with, and then I bought one and sailed that around for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Until that's a dinghy for children, it still exists, and you have to stop when you're 15. So I sailed it until I was 15.
Yeah, but you carried on sailing after that, didn't you? In a fairly distinguished way.
Not distinguished, but I was British champion in Optimists and went to two world championships, one in Denmark and one in Turkey, which is very interesting with a little British team. But it was very low. It was very low key. But
even so,
it sounds good now, but it wasn't.
So, how much would you have done that anyway? Do you think, without the swallows?
Perhaps not. Yeah, I think I don't directly link them in my mind, but yeah, you're probably right. It probably gave me a bit more confidence that I could sail.
Right. And you went. Let's talk about your subsequent career, because you went on acting. You didn't just stop with this. You made a series for the BBC, Sam and the River.
I did one more thing the following year.
Well, it was a 6-part series.
I feel like at Swallows I was sort of reasonably cast, and I was a middle-class child who could sail. In the thing I did for the BBC, I was cast as an East End boy, so I was horribly miscast in this thing, and I only did it because they said Susanna was going to be in it, which was a barefaced lie because there was no young female character in the thing, so they tempted me in with that, and it was just such a I did enjoy it in a funny sort of way, but it was such a contrast to Swallows, where we were looked after so warmly, weren't we? The first day was in London, in the East End, Wapping, in the proper old East End. You know, the craze had just been locked up at that point. But it was proper old East End. We met my mother took me there. We did a day's filming, and at the end they said, "Okay, see you tomorrow." And we lived in Oxford, and she was, well, what does that mean? You know, where's the chaperone? Where's what's going on, sort of thing. They said, "Well, we'll see you tomorrow." You know, just that wasn't going to work. So there was a lot of frantic phone call. I ended up staying with some friends of the family in Bromley for 8 weeks.
Right.
But, you know, it was fine. They were lovely family, etc. But it was just such a different thing.
Right.
I was pretty much on my own.
Right.
So that didn't put me off exactly, but it was
right.
It was such a contrasting experience.
Yeah.
And also, I was quite small. I then grew, got very spotty, lanky. My career would have taken any sort of nose dive with or without me. But no, I didn't enjoy the second thing, so I didn't want to carry on.
Right, but Susanna, you did.
I did carry on. I kind of, I loved it. So Claude was very good to me, and I'd phone him up. My parents were not very keen on it, but I would phone him up on holiday and say, any chance of any work? And he'd give me a couple of jobs. And then, and I just sort of thought, I'm not sure about this really. And then he said to me, I thought it wasn't a Disraeli, it was something else. And he said, I was given some words of encouragement, shall we say. And I just sort of been thinking I might leave it, and then I thought, no, I'm gonna do it. And so yeah, I took it up and went to drama school.
So do you want to mention a couple of your films, or shall I do it? Would you like me to do it?
No, I'll do it.
Go on then.
So I was in Out of Africa. Africa's mentioned a lot, so that was a nice continuation.
Yeah.
And again, that was I mean, it's a good film. I mean, that slightly goes away from the book, actually, what you were talking about earlier. But it's still a good film. It's a beautiful film. And then
Meryl Streep and Robert Redford.
With Meryl Streep and Robert Redford.
Okay.
You know. And then there was 1984 with John Hurt and Richard Burton.
You played Julia, so you were opposite John Hurt.
Yeah. Which was again, a huge privilege, and again, a good film of a book.
Indeed.
Methinks.
And made.
There were bits of it that weren't completely true, but still.
And released in 1984.
And released in 1984. They didn't give Julia the lobotomy that George Orwell gave her, which I think was a shame in the end, because I think that was a very important character aspect. But anyway, I should have fought for that, but I didn't.
Polanski's test.
Polanski was a little bit, he was sort of a bit more, he was lovely to work for, because he'd just sort of muck in again and he'd do the thing and he'd just go, just copy in. That was fun. Test the D'Urbervilles,
yes.
Another good film of a classic book. And then Weatherby, which David Hare wrote, which was a very, very sad and disturbed young woman, but with an incredible cast, with Vanessa Redgrave, all my stuff with Vanessa Redgrave, Tim McInerney, Judi Dench,
Ian Holm, yeah.
I mean, basically for a long period there, I did think I'd died and gone to heaven. It was pretty good, and that was an amazing part. So it was that the 80s were very good for me in the 90s, yeah.
Would you have done that, do you think, if you hadn't have done The Swallows and Amazons? No. So it really did change your career?
It did change my life.
Your life?
Yeah.
Mm. And what are you doing now?
I still act.
Yes? Oh, I know you're busy, yeah.
I've been doing more theatre work stuff lately. And I do other stuff as well. I work for charity and do bits and pieces, yeah. I'm trying to write, but that's really more of a hobby, I'd say.
Right.
I'm not particularly, just seeing how that goes. But I still love acting. I love acting. I took a long time with family and stuff like that.
And Sophie, you went behind the camera, as it were, into production.
I did make another film with Sophie Ward and Mr. Derek Foles, and Vic Armstrong, who became Harrison Ford's stuntman. And then I used my equity card to do silly little things just as holiday jobs when I was at university. And then I went straight from university. I managed to get a contract on the BBC graduate trainee scheme. And I got that because I asked Claude. Claude took me out to dinner and I said, what am I going to say? And he said, you tell them that it's all about using your time well. So I told them that. And he really helped me with that interview because it was really tough. You're in front of all the controllers at the BBC and they're looking for future producers for Newsnight and programmes I was really never going to make. And I really have to thank Arthur Ransom because when I was first a trainee I worked on Russell Harty's show, which I was completely out of my depth. You can look up on YouTube, Russell Harty's Christmas Party. I did set up that. I have to say Esther Ranson saved my socks. And then I heard that Joe Waters, a lovely producer at the BBC, was doing the book adaptations of Coop Club and the Big Six. And I got to cast the children in that serial. And I cast Henry Dimbleby as Tom, the lead, and these lovely identical twins as Paul and Starboard. And then there was a big cast of kids who had to have Norfolk accents and be able to handle boats. So I spent a long time going around every school in Norfolk looking for the death and glories. And then I was able to work on location, and that was 3 months on location. And then I was off, and I spent another 8 years in production at the BBC, and I got to direct in the end comedy dramas with Patsy Byrne, Nursing and Blackadder. And then I got ill, and then I did some freelance work for the BBC in South Africa and Namibia and Botswana, and now I'm writing. Yeah. So that was me, but people think we get residuals from being in Swallows and Amazons. Actually,
of course you don't. No.
No. So there wasn't any money in it, but it was an amazing work experience, and just working together as a team and finding out, how a big film crew, well, it wasn't a big crew, but how to work with adults was very good for us, I think. Just popping back to you for a moment, Simon, what did you didn't go into acting, what did you go into?
Engineering.
Right.
Did an engineering degree, and I still run an engineering company.
Do you still sail?
I'm a very lazy sailor now. I went through a phase, I've got 4 children, I tried to teach them to sail. 2 of them took it up and 2 of them less inclined. So I spent quite a lot of time at a local sailing club to where we live, and then you end up just teaching and repairing boats and things like that, and then after a while I decided I'd had enough of that, I wasn't doing enough sailing. So now we only sail if we go somewhere hot and sunny and someone else is rigging the boats and maintaining the boats. So I still thoroughly enjoy it, but someone else has to do the work.
That sounds so sensible.
Yeah.
But you still go hiking up in the lakes,
Oh, I love the lakes, yeah. We're off in a few weekends' time to the lakes. I usually try and get up there once or twice every year. Yeah.
Now, Sten, you did another job for Claude after this, didn't you? You were helping to sell Weetabix and make them a successful
Weetabix
company.
advert, yeah.
How was that?
It wasn't Swallows and Amazons, was it? There were no boats, there were no lakes, there was no great adventure. It was all over in a couple of days.
Did you ever think of pursuing the acting career?
No, I went back to being a slightly sort of dreamy child, dreamy and stubborn and a bit independent. Grew up in a village on the Cotswolds, so I was having my own everyday adventures over the back, down the valley, in the woods, you know, a bit similar to Swallows and Amazons.
Right.
But yeah, in a child way. But then, yeah, I went through life. I left home quite early. I went travelling around Europe and picking fruit in France and
vines, I believe, vineyards. Yeah.
Yeah. Did the vendange. I've drifted through life with varying degrees of success, and I've now found myself back in France, and I'm working as a gardener. I did get another period of notoriety and national attention.
Yes.
In the 90s, when I'd bought a piece of land and was living on a piece of land near where I grew up on the Cotswolds, and I wasn't allowed to do that. Wasn't allowed to live in the barn that was there, and I ended up in a planning battle with Cotswold District Council, which, due to some legal argument over some legal definition, it ended up in the High Court at one point, and drew the attention of a Guardian journalist. And from that point, I did have a bit of national attention, became known as the Cotswold Hermit.
Yeah, and did that cause célèbre bring up the fact that you had been an actor in Swallows and Amazons, or not?
I think it might have briefly got mentioned.
Right.
Yeah.
I think they didn't know about that. They missed a trick.
It's quite possible, that I didn't.
Well,
why would I let on?
It was harrowing enough. It was harrowing enough as it was. So, And Kit, what about you? You're also, I believe, a gardener here. I believe you're at landscape gardening, aren't you?
I've done so many different jobs, and yes, I did landscaping for a little while. I did voluntary work in Africa for 5 years. I worked as an OT in New Zealand, helped build a boat in Greece, just done loads and loads of different stuff. And I eventually qualified as an OT in 2004, just loved the job. When I hit 60, I got a pension from the NHS, so I thought, thank you very much, and I've just been enjoying myself and just having time to do not a lot, really, and, giving myself permission not to do a lot. So, I've had a really good time up till now, so, and no acting.
Well, it's been a joy to hear all your experiences then and now. So, anybody got a question? One in the front here, if somebody can get it. Fast off the mark. Which of you is going to get there first? Right. It's a race to the mics.
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you to you all, because you probably don't know the effect you've had on a lot of people. I'm Neville Thompson's daughter-in-law. So the film means a lot to me personally, particularly because Neville invited me to bring 20 children from the Bermondsey Lamppost Alternative Free School who had never really been to a cinema, let alone been to anything like this, and had never seen anything like this. And Gary came today. Sadly, he had to go. Gary, you know Gary, but a lot of those children have gone on to become top screenwriters, actors. They're all from Bermondsey. They're all from, I don't know, I don't want to call it, there's not a difficult background. They basically had never been to lots of things, but they are now individually successful. But that film meant that every weekend after we went to the premiere of Swallows and Amazons, we had to go to Hyde Park. Gary reminded me, he said, that's why we kept going on the lake at Hyde Park. They went every weekend. We had to go up to the Serpentine so that they could play Swallows and Amazons. Ricky Beadle-Blair is one of our top writers. Rena Vagano, who is a children's playwright, and has followed on David's footsteps. So, and Neville was very special. These are grandchildren, daughter, I mean, whole family are here. Neville had 8 children. I don't know whether you all knew that. I was married to his eldest son. So I just wanted to say a thank you on behalf of all those children, that you, many more, that you will have changed their lives, and you just won't know that you have changed their lives.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You remember the song you sang on as you all got into the boat, when you first got into the boat? Can you remember it, and can you sing it?
And please, will you sing it?
We got it, well, I got it wrong.
Adieu and farewell, you sweet Spanish ladies, farewell and adieu to you ladies of Spain. England, and we may never see you Hades again.
Kerry Derbyshire, who played the nurse, is going to join us when we're in Cumbria, because she still lives in Cumbria. And Tiffany Smith played the baby Vicky. We can find her, I don't know where she is.
This is the 9-year-old in me asking this question, but I've always wanted to know, did you really do the owl calls, and can you do them?
Simon. Oh. So, did you have to provide them for everybody else, kid?
I did, yes.
Yeah, right. Did you get a bit of extra?
No, I didn't.
Missed out there?
Had you all read the book before, and in terms of the characters that you played, did you sort of already want to be those people, or did you sort of actually want to be one of the other people from the other crew?
Okay, did you know the books, and did you relate to your characters in the books? Anybody?
I'd read the books, and yes, I definitely wanted to be Nancy.
I haven't read the books, but I really wanted to be Nancy too. Oh, too sweet. Not Susan. I take it, you know. I couldn't believe it.
I'd read the books, I'd read 7 of them, and I identified with Susan. But I didn't think I looked right at all, because in the books Titty's dark and had hair cut like Susanna. So I didn't identify with Titty, but I made a decision to pretend to be Titty and pretend to be Nile.
Simon?
I had read the books as well. I don't think I identified with anyone particularly. I know when we went to Burnham on Crouch, because I was quite small, some of the other children, not the adults, but some of the other children said to me, you could say, you're going to be Roger. And I sort of left thinking, yeah, okay, I'll take it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wasn't, but that didn't happen. So.
Roger?
Well, there we are. I think the casting people got it right, really. I mean, obviously you make Titty and you make Susan. I couldn't see it the other way round, really.
Did you have ambitions to be
I can't
John?
remember. I do remember that. I hadn't read the books, but I needed to read the book. I read the book before the film. Because,
so to read the book and learn to swim?
And learn to swim. There we are, the two. Yeah. Prerequisites, yeah. Yeah. And
So-
I can't remember identifying with anyone in particular, but obviously I think the casting got it right again.
Yeah.
If you see me there.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled to be here today because this was my very first film in charge. I'm the makeup artist, and it's been a wonderful experience today to meet everybody again and see everybody. And Neville Thompson was just brilliant, and he was very helpful to me. And so I really appreciate that, the comments that were made earlier. But I've got a question for Cedric or any other camera crew, because Dennis Lewiston, when I was very young then, when I started this film, but I'd obviously worked before on other shows, and I just found it very funny that he had an aversion to the colour green, which is known in the industry, and he was in the Lake District filming the most iconic film of the Lake District ever filmed, and he couldn't stand grass, he couldn't stand anything that was green. And I just wondered if Cedric, who was in the camera department, had any comments to make about that, because it wasn't known when we were filming, it was known later, and he's written about it, and he literally is, it obsesses him. So I just thought it was very funny that he got the job of being a cameraman. It was brilliant, and he's a brilliant cameraman, but it's just funny that I've never forgotten that we were in the Lake District, in the greenest part of the country, and he would be like, I don't know what he was doing, he was going crazy. So that's my comment, and thank you very much for today.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. And thank you for your work on the film too. And rescuing Sophie's tooth.
Oh yeah, well, the tooth story you've heard about, and I kept that, and I only returned it about probably 2 years ago. Sophie got in touch with me. It was on the program to do with, up in the Lake District, to do with the repair shop, I think.
Antique Roadshow, was it?
The Antiques Roadshow, that's right. And it was Antiques Roadshow, and I suddenly got, I managed to find her agent and got hold of her. And I said, I've still got it in the camera tin, because, and I'd kept it all the time. And on the tin, it's still there, it's still on the piece of camera tape. It says Titty's tooth. And she now tells me she hasn't opened it. It's perfectly safe. It's not contaminated.
So,
it's a great story.
Was it valued on the Antique Roadshow, Peter?
I contacted them
It was
to say, we actually contacted them to say, I've actually got this item, if you're interested, and they didn't respond. I mean, I thought it was fairly shocking, because, this tooth is legendary. So, but I'm glad I kept it, and I'm glad it's got back to its owner.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great story.
The Times diarist, he thought it was great, so it got mentioned in the Times. A special article, all of its own, Titty's too.
And was anybody aware of Cedric's green phobia?
No, it was Dennis's.
Oh, Dennis's, sorry.
Yeah, I knew he didn't like green because I had a green T-shirt that I wasn't allowed to wear.
So how did he cope?
Well, I don't know.
He didn't act in any strange kind of way because of his phobia.
Not as far as I'm aware.
Except for your green T-shirt.
I didn't wear the green T-shirt.
Right. Wow. Fascinating.
My younger sisters and I had the film recorded off the telly, and we watched it so many times when we were younger that there's a number of the lines from the film that have made it into their sort of family sayings now. And it was lovely hearing one in particular when Sten says, and I said yes. Honestly, we say that so many times in my family. So I was just wondering, do you have a particular favourite line from the film?
I think mine was, and we've been here yards and yards.
That's another one, yeah.
Girls!
Susanna?
Stow it, Peggy, you goat.
Any favourite lines, Simon?
I think Susanna got the best lines, didn't you? I think that was nice. I can't think of anything particular. But they said, apart from misdelivery, there were quite a number of lines.
I think you're being very harsh on yourself.
Well, I would just like to say that it's ironic that Sten got a part in this film, because I was given the book and I hated it. I had no connection with sailing or anything at all. We didn't have a telephone, so all the phoning backwards and forwards when he was going for interviews and things was done by a next-door neighbour. And when I say next-door neighbour, they live sort of metre down the road, so to speak. They had the phone. So when eventually they offered him the part and said, you've got to go as well or he can't have it, was quite a bombshell. But what I would like to say is how hard they worked. All of them worked hard. They were long days, often 6 days a week. And, you know, yes, they had breaks, and yes, they did their schoolwork and so on, and yes, they were out on a film set, but they weren't allowed to do some of the ordinary games they wanted to play. There was a swing, a rope swing on a tree at one site, and within minutes of getting out of the minibus, they were all on this swing. And to the horror of the film crew was, get them off there, you know, because they'll hurt themselves, we'll lose film time. So they were limited with their activities while they were on set. So but it was a privilege to be there with them. And I think I Said Yes is also one of my favourites.
Jane, thank you so much. Jane, who's Sten's mother, and was one of the, well, you schooled the children, helped schooling the children while they were there as well. So thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Thank you,
Well, I was going to ask my question there, and now I'm just wanting to say thank you, because it touched my life in a number of ways. I guess I just want to take you back to Christmas Day, 1998. I was the junior doctor in Dumfries and Galloway Royal Infirmary, 186 ill people and green me to look after them on every bloody television. Oh, pardon me, closer. On every television, in every room, was swallows and amazons, you all prancing about, leading this idyllic lifestyle. And for me, it was blood and squalor. And I phoned my mother and I cried and said, I want everyone and I want everything. I want Christmas, my next day off, which was Saturday, I think the 12th of January, and she did it, and it was great, so thank you. But my actual question is, about Yars and Yars, is you all had carte glass accents in the film. Were you kind of told to do that, or is that kind of how it grew in the 70s?
I was quite surprised. I think, yeah, it just sort of rubbed off on each other, and it just came out like that. That's what I think.
Yeah.
As you may have noticed, I don't have a middle-class accent, and that wasn't me talking.
Thank you. Well, actually, one last question. This is for David. David, you talked about how you got the job of adapting this. For you, it was a first step in in a career for you. I mean, apart from acting. Looking now at this point in the evening, as it were, after you've seen the film, but actually heard these stories, how do you reflect on the fact that something you wrote has become part of these people's lives and actually all of the rest of our lives as well?
Well, I can't really say anything except that we owe it all to Arthur Ransom, don't we, really?
Indeed.
Without that book, there wouldn't have been the chance to write the film, and without the film, nobody up here would have been doing it.
Yes.
And I do think that his contribution to children's literature is up there amongst the greats. I really do. And I think that the books still stand and have that freedom of adventure, or whatever you like to call it, which is something that most children can't experience now, but they can experience it through the books. So for me, this has been wonderful, the reunion side of it, but also it's a big toast to Arthur Ransom.
Yes, let's give him a round of applause. Thank you, David. Thank you. So thank you all for being here, but particularly for a final round of applause, will you please thank Simon and Susanna and Sophie and Sten and Kit and David and Peter and Jane, who are also with us. Bravo.